conversation around sales. Last time when Bridget and I were together, we were talking a little bit about using the stage and speaking for sales, but we originally had intended to talk about specifically networking for sales and a few other things around the sales cycle and closing sales. So first of all, Bridget, could remind the audience about who you are, what you do, and then let's dive into this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, Tish. So again, thanks for creating this platform and having me on the show and having me back for part two to our conversation. My name is Bridget McGowen-Hawkins. I am an award-winning international professional speaker turned award-winning international author and publisher. Yeah, a lot of fun things that all go together. So yeah, good stuff.
Very, very good stuff. So when we hadn't seen each other in a long time, it's been probably a few years, and we ran into each other at a networking event recently, and we're really just baffled at how people behave in a networking setting. And I remember us talking about how people just don't have networking protocol down as it pertains to the way that they try to introduce products and services. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been? And then let's talk about a better way to network and to introduce your products and services to people.
And to be fair, Tish, I made those mistakes
Oh,
early on,
yes. Oh, yes.
right?
No
Right.
doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Just full transparency. So oftentimes we'll go to networking events, and because this is connected to business and you're sales driven and it's all about the bottom line, you will oftentimes go into those networking events thinking sell, 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 got to get a customer, got to get a client, got to close a deal. But with networking events, most of the time, 99% of those people you have never seen in your life, they have never seen you before. They don't know you from a can of paint.
Right.
And so it's almost like, your first time going out on a date with someone. You're not immediately putting a ring on it, rushing them down the aisle, trying to get married, figuring out how many babies you're going to have. But
Right.
that is a big mistake that you and I both see people make at networking events. They're trying to get people to the altar when it's like, whoa, 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 I just want to have coffee with you and see if, what do you do? What are you about? Could we do business together? Do you have a service or product that meets a need or a challenge that I have right now? So at those networking events, and I did it too, I would show up thinking, I got my cards hot off the press. I know someone is ready to hire me for a 5-figure speaking gig. They don't know me, but they're going to hire me, right? You go with the high expectations, and that's fine. But shift those expectations into how many people can I just touch bases with and start to build relationships with rather,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to how many people can I sell or how many people can, get into a contract.
And that's exactly why obviously I authored a book called Networking is Not a One Night Stand for that very reason. I was just getting frustrated because you're right. We've all done it, when we're early on in our career. So there's definitely grace. No one's getting mad because this is happening. But I think that our endeavor today is just to help people understand that there's a better way. And there is a way that can actually lead to actual business, but you just have to be willing to. I always tell clients you have to slow down your process to speed up your results, because you think that if I just give it all to them right now, they're definitely going to see all the value. They're absolutely going to know I am the best thing since sliced bread, and they need to hire me right now. But we both know that that's not the case. And that parallel in the book is obvious, and it's very intentional, because who wants to be, basically propositioned for a quickie at a networking event? Because that's what it kind of feels like when it's like, hi, my name is, buy my stuff. That's kind of what it comes across as. And so what would you say is a better way just to engage someone when you're meeting them for the first time, whether you were the speaker, whether you were at a networking event, whether you meet them in the Target parking lot, whatever it is, what is a better way, in your opinion, just to engage someone for a conversation?
Talk less.
Ooh, I love it. Yes.
Let them talk more. Hey, what is it that you do? Hey, that's like a really interesting logo on your shirt. What's that all about?
Mhm.
Ask what they have going on And if they ask what you do, yeah, fine. If they don't, that's fine too. Do try to find some kind of way to segue into, well, wow, that reminds me of XYZ that I do. But if you never get a chance to even talk about what it is you do, it's really more about the connection than it is about what you do or what business you're in. But number one, talk less, have that person talking more, and then find pieces, find highlights that you can then build on and create a conversation. Go into it like it's two human beings as opposed to two business owners.
Yeah. And I think about the fact that, my kids like yours, my kids were athletic and we were always at a game, whether it's a basketball game or a track meet or whatever. And if I sat down to a parent, sat down next to a parent that I've never met, we have something in common. Both of our kids are out on the field. But when I sit down with them, I'm not going to begin to start asking them all the deep, dark secrets of their life, right? I'm not going to make them uncomfortable. It's just like, hey, isn't this a great day? And then of course it may be like, okay, when you're not out here on the field, what do you do during the day? What lights you up? And then, before you know it, they may be saying, hey, let's get the kids together. Let's grab some coffee. Let's grab lunch if there is a connection. But when we're in a business environment, we lose all sense of just human connection and what it means to actually begin to build a relationship. And so that initial connection is so important. But then when we've made that connection, how would you describe the next steps to really like, okay, there's obviously some synergy here. There's obviously, I definitely know that I can help this person. I definitely feel as though they might be interested. What would you say is the next step without kind of, again, jumping right into here's my hotel room key. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the next step that doesn't take it too far,
Okay.
too fast?
The next step is one, put the hotel room key back in your purse, back in your wallet. That's step one. The first step is to make sure you reach out beyond the event
Yeah.
because that encounter was at best a minute or two, five, maybe. So the next step is, hopefully you exchange contact information or you connected with each other on social media, is to then actually reach out and say, hey, it was great seeing you at XYZ event. I just want to connect here, not just, don't use the word just, that minimizes things. I want to connect here. Let's have a conversation. I'd like to learn more about what you do. I'd like to just get to know you, period. But definitely reach out. It's great if you can do in person to schedule a meetup, but if not, Zoom works well. But actually just continue the conversation, continue to build that relationship even beyond that initial conversation. I remember I met a lady at a networking event in, I think it was maybe late April of 20, and we connected on LinkedIn, fine. But then after that, she and I both said, hey, let's meet in person. And I may have told you about, no, I don't think I told you about this. I had blocked an hour on my calendar. We met for coffee in downtown Chandler. Do you know that 1 hour conversation turned into 3?
Oh, you did tell
And
me about that. Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
we had to cut it off only because I said, my son's going to be out of school. He's get out of school. I've got to go home. But we could, I know, have sat there for another hour or two and we'll meet again. We said, oh, we've got to do this again. So that first step is continuing the conversation and not assuming they're going to reach out to you. If you felt a genuine draw or a genuine interest, then just just as you would with anybody else, keep the conversation going. If you met somebody on the plane that you thought was cool, if you met somebody at a party that you thought was cool, you'd reach out. Well,
Yeah.
the same thing goes in this instance. And I will say this is step number 2. Don't assume you're going to close them in that next touch point.
Right.
And step number 3, and I don't know if these are steps,
Mhm.
also realize that person may not be your client, may not be your customer,
True.
but he or she has a network, has a community,
Yeah.
and the better they get to know you, they can more easily refer you to people who do need your services or your products.
I love it. So I'm going to take us a step back because there's something that, I think these kind of conversations as professionals we have, we understand that networking is, in my opinion, the entry point to the sales process. It can lead to, it doesn't always, but it can lead to a potential sale. But Bridget, I believe that there are reasons why people act in the manner that they do when they engage someone and again go too far, too fast, present themselves as needy and almost like desperate. There are reasons behind that. And I have some thoughts around it that I'll share as well. But what do you think really kind of drives that kind of behavior? What causes people to show up that way?
Well, one is certainly what you said. It is the desperation. I mean, let's just be real. Sometimes business gets tough and
Yeah,
you need that one deal in
yeah,
order to make payroll or whatever it is, or pay some vendors or whatever. So
right.
sometimes it is just the actual factual, you need money.
Mhm.
But more importantly, I think it happens more because of not knowing
Yeah.
what great networking looks like.
Mhm.
There, not that I know of, there's no college course or anything like that that necessarily tells you, quote unquote, how to do it. And not
Right.
that there's, I don't know that there's a textbook. Well, maybe your book,
Yeah.
right? Go get your copy. Get a copy for yourself. Get a copy for your friend. But I think a lot of times people just don't know. I mean, I think back to when I became a business owner back in 2016.
Yeah.
One, I did not personally know business owners. I became a business owner because I got laid off. And I had a girlfriend who said, "Hey, Bridget, you should do it." And I thought, well, okay, I guess I will. And I didn't know what I was doing, showing up at these events with my business cards and my website. And, so a lot of times it's not knowing. And then also the desperation piece. And then also maybe having seen it done the wrong way and thinking that's the right way.
Yeah.
Maybe you've gone to other networking events or you've shadowed other people or whatever, and you think that, well, that's how I've seen it done, so that must be the way to do it. Those are my three takes.
I agree with all of those for sure. And it's interesting because I know when I came out of the corporate world, I was like, I know one thing, I'm gonna work for myself. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna work for myself. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. So my first stop, like many others, was in the network marketing world. Um, that kind of, multi-level marketing. And so I did Mary Kay, I did a travel company that the name is World Ventures. And I was really good at these things, believe it or not. I was really good at them. But the one thing that never set well with me in that world, I did Advocare. I mean, all of these various different kind of network marketing, all of great companies, no shade to the companies. But the thing that they taught us that I never could get behind. I could be like, I would be in those meetings like, yes, yes. And then they would say this one thing, I'd be like, I don't like that. And they'd say, call all your friends, get out your phone and call everybody in your network, in your address book, right? Have this party, set them up, tell them that they're going to come to this party. It's going to be great. You're just going to have some snacks and then get them all there and sell them. And I was like, that just didn't feel good to me. It never did. But I think that there are many people that are being trained these tactics. And because they don't know any better, they feel like that's how you do it. You just call all the people. You don't care that, you haven't talked to them in 15 years. You don't care that the last time you talked to them, you were asking them for something and now you're calling them asking them for something else again. Those types of tactics, I think, get ingrained in the new entrepreneur, the new business owner, the new sales professional, and they go, okay, well, that's what they told me to do back in XYZ company. I'm going to try it here. And so they get into these rooms and go right for the kill because in their mind, you need to walk away with three new businesses, three new sales or whatever. That's the first thing. And then for me, Bridget, is a little more, I guess I give a little more grace for this reason because I think there's also that person who, once again, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think they come out with, I don't care about the person, I just want to sell. But there's that little girl, that little boy who remembers being rejected every time it was time to get picked for dodgeball, right? Every time all the girlfriends were going to go do something and they were the one that got left out. And and I call it a spirit of rejection is still ingrained in them. So instead of getting rejected and taking the time that's necessary to build a relationship, because every time I tried to build a relationship when I was little, I got rejected. And I'm not going to put myself out there again. So look, let me just talk to you. Let me tell you what I have, and let's just do this deal. And that way I don't have to put my emotions out there. And I do think that there's a part of many entrepreneurs, many business professionals who have that little girl or that little boy speaking on behalf of them, which is causing them to show up as desperate, causing them to show up as uncaring, salesy, slimy, all of that. So that's why I think I'm so passionate about this, because I feel like there's a underlying reason behind that behavior as well, in addition to all the things that we said, right?
And you know what else, Tish? I 100% agree with everything you said. Something else that occurred to me. I think a mistake that's made in networking events is you will go in there thinking everybody is your potential customer.
Yes,
Every single person in that
yes.
room is
Yeah.
a potential customer. And I think that sets you up for failure
Mhm.
because you know who your ideal client is.
Yeah.
You know your client avatar, and you're in this room of 200 people, and it is not likely that every single one of them needs what you are selling, unless you're selling toilet paper, right?
I
Yeah, but and even with that, there's more than one brand on the market. You're not the only
it
one
is not
selling it.
2020. We are not in a toilet paper
And I wonder what was that all
crisis
about.
anymore.
I'm wondering what was all that toilet paper hoarding about, but that's another
That's a whole
podcast.
other thing.
But I think a lot of times you go in there with that mindset, and it's nice, it's ambitious
Mhm.
to feel that way. But I want you to be realistic and know that out of, let's say you get to talk to 10 people, and this is no hard, fast statistic that I pulled from anywhere. Out of those 10 people, two of them may really need what you have. And out of those two, maybe it's only one who really needs what you have or are selling. And the other one maybe knows somebody who,
Yeah.
tomorrow who needs what you're selling. So just kind of manage your expectations and don't go in seeing a sea of people who are going to, want to sign a contract with you today.
I agree. And then, you said something, your avatar. And there are just so many people that aren't clear. You know, one of the things that we've done here in our business and my business is I've created the avatars. They're named after people, or they're based on real people, and we've given them a name. And so
Yep.
anybody that's a part of this organization, they know beyond, I mean, maybe in the first 2 or 3 minutes of a conversation, maybe less, they know if we're talking to introvert Irene. They know if we're talking to networking Nancy. They know if we're talking to sales leader Susan. Those are our three client avatars. And it's so clear that there's no confusion. And it makes it easy to be in a conversation and be like, this is a great conversation in my head. This is a great conversation. This is not one of my clients. How else might I be able to serve them? Who could I refer them to? Because they're not someone that I personally can help. And if you're that clear, then it makes it easy. And it makes it easy to say no. I love being able to say, not my person. And that's
Right.
okay, right?
Exactly. And flipping that, be okay with family and friends not buying what you're selling
Mhm.
because they may not be your ideal client.
For
Family
sure.
and friends may buy your book or may attend your workshop out of just being nice, but don't get mad if you come out with something else and they're not lining up to buy it because they're not your client. They don't need what it is you're selling. It's not that they don't love you. It's
Right.
it's and don't support what you're doing. But in going through that Rolodex that you mentioned earlier and selling to every family and friend and trying to get them all on board, they don't necessarily need what you're selling, and that's not a bad thing. They're just not your person for now.
Ah, and it may do you a disservice when they do. And let me tell you why. Because,
Oh,
when you first get started, and I think this is a great episode. I'm hoping that those of you all who are just kind of getting into the world of sales are really taking notes here, because when those people who love you, who want to support you, they buy all your stuff. And guess what that does to you? It makes you think, oh, I'm a good salesperson. I could sell to anybody. I could talk to the Eskimos and sell them ice, not realizing that the people who have loved you and supported you, they've just been like, oh, bless their heart. I'll buy it just because I want to I want to make sure that they don't get their feelings hurt or whatever. And it gives you a false expectation of what to really what's going to happen when you get out into really, quote unquote, the real world. And so those things might be helpful at first to your pocketbook, but for you developing as a sales professional, it's probably not the best thing, because you don't learn how to deal with real objections. You don't learn how to follow up effectively, right? You don't learn how to have really empowering or impactful sales conversations that cause people to lean in and realize that they need what you have to offer. And so those things, again, they may be great at first, but they're not going to be the thing that's going to make you into an amazing communicator that causes people to say yes. All right.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit, Bridget, in the little time we have left around, what are some of the ways that you have found to turn those, I say from connections to clients, what are some of the ways that have worked really well for you beyond the relationship building that we've discussed and those things? Is there anything that comes to mind that's been almost like a go-to or a great tip that you might provide to the audience that helps them to take those connections into inviting them into being new clients?
Always showing value, always adding value, giving them value. If I see something that comes across my desk that just sounds like it makes sense for one of my authors, I'll send it to them. For example, I have this one amazing author in Detroit, and I don't do it out of, oh, I'm gonna stay in touch with him in hopes that I'm gonna send him things in hopes that he'll publish his next edition with me. That'd be nice. But I do it just because I'll see something that just has his name written all over it. So I saw this grant opportunity for entrepreneurs who were engaging in the work of making a difference and creating impact. And that's what this particular author does, Jonathan Quarles. He's amazing. And I was like, oh my goodness, JQ, I just saw this. I had to send it to you. Hope you're doing well. Hope your girls are good. Take care. Have a good weekend. So always adding value, whether it is you see things that just sound like it would be a good fit. You come across people that you think, oh, I've got to introduce these to.
Yeah.
And I'll do that in a minute where I'm like, wow, you do this, this, and this. I just met so-and-so who does that, that, and that. Also, being a connector, adding value. And there was something else I had. I can't think of it right now. Solve problems for them,
Yeah.
right? Be
Yeah.
there, be there for them beyond the service that you provide, right? So there's building the relationship. They become a client, and then you're servicing them while they're an active client, and then the project probably closes out. But then just still being there after that, not so much because again you're hoping to get another sale. That would be great. But it's just kind of like just being a friend. So add value, be a connector, and then see beyond the sale.
I love those. Those are so perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I really feel like if we allow ourselves to be a resource, almost be, a sales force for them on some level, to where it's like, okay, now I know you, just know you have someone on your team who's looking out for you, who's going to make the connections for you, so on and so forth. It makes all the difference in the world. Girl, it's always such a pleasure talking with you. And I know that these particular tips and topics, the things that we've talked about today, will be gold for that person who's wondering why their networking is not working, why people are kind of blowing them off, why people are kind of turned off by their approach. So thank you so much for having this part 2 to our first conversation. And I look forward, we'll continue to have these kind of talks periodically, because I think that they're needed for the community.
Without a doubt, see the person before you see the prospect. Have the conversation before you have a client, on the books and a contract ready. Yeah, person and conversation first. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much, Bridget. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Tish.